Hey, how are you? Welcome to the Pure Motivation Podcast Show. I'm your host, Dimitri Giancoulis. And as always, we're going to be covering a lot of topics that are going to help you cover mindset, your mission in life, your muscle, your macros, and your marriage. Today, I want to put together an amazing podcast for you. And I want to talk about a few things put together for those of you over 40. And this is called Stronger After 40, the Ectomorph's Guide to Building Muscle and Breaking Through Plateaus. So before we get into this amazing podcast today, what I want to do is I want to share a story with you. And I want to remind you how important coaches are in your life, in my life, and how they've inspired me and got me to the level where I'm at. So when I first started training and I got into, drug-free bodybuilding, I started working out after high school, started getting a little bit more results. And then when I was in my, 19, 20, because I competed at 21, my first show, one of my first coaches, Chris Simpson, he taught me something that I'm never going to forget. And he taught me what's more important in bodybuilding, in a body transformation, in helping a client to get a result, in anything in life. It's not the variables that you're going to put into the process. And it's not always what you're doing, what you're buying, what you're reading, but it's more important in paying attention to the plateaus when you get stuck. And what happened was I would do my workouts and I'd be coming to work with my Tupperware full of food and I was ready to go and I would do my body comp and I'd get stuck. And as soon as I got stuck and I never saw no changes, it would start to, frustrate me. It would start to get me more mad. And what I would do is I would just go back and train harder and I would do the same thing and I wouldn't get a result. And whenever we'd sit together and I'd say, hey, I need help. Can you help me break this plateau? He would always say to me, what's more important? Is the stuff you're doing or is it you assessing and looking back? And I'm like, no, it's stuff you're doing. It's the workout. It's the macros. It's the training. And he said to me, no, it's always stopping, reflecting, looking back at what you have done, and then seeing common trends and seeing how to break those trends. So today, I've got together the most important struggles that an ectomorphic person like myself would go through. I've got some of the biggest challenges that they face, and I got two key takeaways that you can use for each and every point to actually break through this. Now, some of you guys may have one or two of these challenges. Some of you may have all the challenges. By the end of this podcast, you'll be able to have 10 different programs to work with and to get better results. All right, so before we begin, for those of you who don't know what an ectomorph is, an ectomorphic person is someone that typically has a faster metabolism. You can tell by look at them, they're super tall, they're lanky, small wrists, long joints, typically smaller shoulders, smaller waist. And they struggle to gain weight. If you're thinking of a volleyball player, basketball player, a soccer player, typically these people do very well with endurance sports and they don't do well with sports that involve strength or in terms of powerlifting or in terms of stuff that can do to gain weight. Now, I broke this down into four main areas of some of the main challenges, and then I'm going to break down or in terms of plateaus and how we can break them through. So the first and most important struggle is trying to gain weight, okay? Now, first challenge is a fast metabolism, okay? Ectomorphs typically have a fast metabolism and they should be aiming to consume 500 to 700 calories more than their body's total daily energy expenditure rate. Now, when people throw the word calories in, they got to eat more. Sometimes people find it very frustrating or confusing because they're not really sure, well, what does that mean? Statistics show that typically ectomorphs burn between 200 to 300 calories more per day than a typical person, just based on natural metabolism. So first thing you should do is try to find out what your BMR is. Now, I have a personal training app that I use with my online coaching clients that actually puts in your height, your age, your weight, your sex, your activity level, and it'll give you a basal metabolic rate number. The basal metabolic rate, or BMR, stands for how many calories your body burns at rest. You can also use an in-body scanner like we have at the studio. You can also use a different method, which is if you want to use the paper and pen method, I'll be putting it up somewhere here on the screen, but it's called the Mifflin-St. method, okay? Basically, you're looking at calculating your BMR by doing, I got my cheat sheet here, 10 times your weight in kilograms plus 6.25 times your height in centimeters minus 5 times your age in years plus 5. No one's going to go through that type of long formula. But once you find out your basal metabolic rate, the next thing you want to find out is your total daily energy expenditure. So that's based on how active you are. Now, if you check out the sheet that we're going to be putting up on the screen here, you'll see that there's different ways to calculate that. Once you have your BMR, you can literally break it down to whether you're sedentary, you're lightly active, you're moderately active, if you're very active or super active. And then based on that number, you want to multiply your BMR times that number, okay? Which is going to give you a caloric surplus. Because if you're meeting your basic calories per day, you're not going to gain weight. I don't care if Arnold Schwarzenegger is your trainer. I don't care if you have the best personal trainer, nutritionist. If you're eating the same calories you are per day, you're going to maintain. If you're eating a caloric surplus of between 500 to 700 calories, you'll actually be able to gain weight because you're giving your body more energy than it needs, and it can use some for storage, for use of training, and then the ability to grow. Now, I put together an example here, and I put together for a 40-year-old male. You'll see here on the screen. We want to look at what he would do in terms of gaining weight. So we put together his basal metabolic rate. We came up with the calories, and we noticed that his BMR worked out to 1679 per day. That's his basal metabolism. That means he wakes up, sits on a couch all day. That's what his body's going to burn to use fuel. Now, if you add in his activity being moderate level, it works out to 2,600 calories per day. So again, if I eat 2,600 calories per day, and that's what my body needs to sustain, nothing's going to happen. Okay. And so for most of you who are struggling to gain weight, the first place we look at is the kitchen, not the gym, not the barbells. Now, what we want to do is we want to add a surplus of calories to go from 2,600. If you add 500 calories more, you're at 3,102 calories per day. If you're able to break that down and have it over 5 to 6 small meals throughout the day, you will have to gain weight. Now, partial of the weight you gain will be a little bit of muscle tissue and a small amount of body fat. You can't gain pure muscle in one direction and no body fat if you're an ectomorphic body type like myself, because we need some fat to help out with sustain that energy caloric. And you also want to make sure that because you're training naturally, you're not taking testosterone or performance enhancing supplements, we need to get a higher calorie count. So challenge number 2 is we have an inadequate caloric intake. Okay, what does that mean? That means that you're not tracking your calories. So it's inadequate. One day it's 3,500. The next day it's 2,900. The next day it's 3,000. The next day it's 1,500. So if you're not tracking your calories or either using an app, again, if you're working with a coach like myself, we have a customized app where you can put all your food into it. You literally just use the barcode scanner to bar scan whatever meal you have that comes in a package if it does. If it's chips, if it's a container, if it's tomato sauce, it'll upload the calories to the app where you can actually put them in. But if you're not actually tracking your calories, you're not going to get a clear picture of where you're falling short. Next, you want to look at adding calorie-dense foods. So some people that I speak to say, oh, I eat a lot of high-calorie foods. I eat submarines, and sometimes I go and get burgers, and I have big fries. But you want to be looking at getting nutrient-dense calorie foods, okay? You want to be getting your complex carbohydrates, your low glycemic starches. You want to look at fruits, vegetables, your proteins, your nuts, okay? I like to suggest the Mediterranean diet because it covers a little bit of all of those. But if you're not going to be getting calorie-dense foods, versus, let's say for breakfast, you have a tuna sandwich with a half a cup of nuts and you have an apple on the side, okay? That breakfast compared to pancakes, or if you're gonna have a bowl of cereal with some nuts on top of it, won't be sufficient in calories. One is gonna be full of sugar, high glycemic carbs, it'll spike your blood sugar, store some as fat, where the other one is gonna give you much, much healthier, more dense, calorie-rich foods, which will slowly provide you energy to gain the weight you need. Number 3, we're looking at insufficient protein, okay? You got to remember here that you're trying to build muscle. Now, whether you're a male, whether you're a female, whether you're 18 years old or 40, especially more important as you get older, you need to be consuming a minimum of 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal, especially your first meal of the day and your last meal of the day. If you've been sleeping for 6, 7, 8 hours and the first meal you have is a bagel with some peanut butter and a coffee, there's no protein at all in that meal, Okay. You're going to spike your blood sugar with that, horrible bagel. It's full of just, empty calories. And then you're also going to have no protein. So by the time your next meal kicks in, your body is deficient in that most important macronutrient. And in order for muscle protein synthesis to occur, we need to have adequate amount of protein, not just for usage, but also for storage and growth. Stats show that if you consume 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per ideal pound of body weight, you'll not only build muscle, but you'll improve your strength gains. Easy takeaways for this is plan protein with every meal. When I make my meal, the first thing that me and my wife do is just say, what are we having for protein? It makes it simple. It's like a rule, ABC. You want to have breakfast? What's for protein? Some eggs, some toast, or some fruit. What's for my snack? Some Greek yogurt or some protein powder in a shake. What's for lunch? I always start with the protein. And next, if you feel you're unable to reach your protein requirements per day, make a protein shake. Put 1.5 scoops, 2 scoops of some whey protein powder. You're probably going to get between 30 to 45 grams of protein in one shot. You can have that in between your day, in between your breakfast and lunch. And that's going to suffice your body with the protein you need, easily absorbed throughout the day, and it can be easily carried with you, even at your desk. Challenge number 4 is overtraining without proper recovery. So as we age, as we become 40, 50, and so forth, we need to schedule rest days in between. Without proper rest days, you can't recuperate. You can't work on having that lactic acid, that soreness that you feel, get out of the muscles and deplete naturally. And if you're overtraining, all you're doing is breaking down muscle fibers more frequently, which is not going to help you gain weight or get stronger. Statistics show that overtraining can reduce your muscle recovery and growth by 30%. So key takeaways that you can do for this are simple. Implement deload weeks. What's a deload week? Every 4 to 6 weeks, reduce the load you're lifting at. Reduce the amount of intensity by 50%. Let your muscles heal. Let them recuperate. Which means if you're doing a total body split for size, you're doing legs, chest, and back for 1 month, and you go for the 5th week, you can't keep increasing the weight over and over and over again. Let you have 1 week of deload where you drop the weight by 50%, you drop the repetitions down, or you increase repetitions to shock your body, and you're not going to be hurting those muscles even more. They need time to heal. Also, you want to look at incorporating active recovery on the off days. So instead of you doing 3 back-to-back days of lifting, do 1 day of proper lifting and then 1 day of some yoga, some cardio, some walking. Let your body heal. When I was younger, I used to train Monday to Friday straight through, and I had no problems taking the weekends off. Now at 46, I can go 2 days on, then I need 1 full day to rest because my body is sore much longer. Challenge number 5 is poor recovery techniques. So many times I hear guys in the gym say that they're training, and when they're done their workout, they will just go to sleep. They come the next day, they'll do a little stretch. They still feel sore, they'll recover, or they'll continue to train. The most important thing you want to do is incorporate protocols of active stretching, foam rolling, even yoga if you have to, 1 to 2 a week, to give your body that time to stretch, relax, and rest those muscles. Sleep is also very important. If you're only sleeping 6 hours a night, it's going to be impossible for you to gain muscle. So going for 7 to 9 hours per night is going to be easier for you to optimize sleep recovery. Stats show that sleep deprivation has been shown to decrease muscle protein synthesis between 20 to 30%. So try to aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep if you can every night. Key takeaways for this are super simple. Establish a bedtime routine. Set your alarm to remind you an hour before you go to bed that you got to go to bed, so that way you get the proper sleep. Start reading before you go to bed. Drink some chamomile tea to slow yourself down. If you need to, take some melatonin if you have to. But the most important thing is also to use a foam roller, a massage gun after your workout, especially when you have that lactic acid buildup. You can't train like a savage and then not rest the muscles to get that healing process occurring and to grow. Challenge number 6 is energy depletion. So what do I mean by that? I mean, eating balanced meals post-workout and pre-workout. Some people will do a hardcore workout. They'll finish the workout and they'll say, you know what? I just want to grab whatever I can. I'm going to grab a banana and I'm going to grab some nuts. You're missing protein, the most important macronutrient. Or they may start their day off with a breakfast that's just going to have a carbohydrate without a protein and a carb. At every meal, you want to be able to mix in a protein, carb, and a fat, so you balance the macronutrients, and you want to make sure that you're not missing out on specific micronutrients and macronutrients. Research shows that if you're eating a carbohydrate, protein, and fat meal right after the workout, can increase muscle glycogen storage up to 30%. Easy takeaway tips are when you're done your workout, make sure you have a post-workout meal. In actuality, the most important meals of the day should be your pre and post-workout meals. So for a male that's trying to gain weight, no less than 40 grams of protein after workout, anywhere between 30 to 55, 60 grams of carbs per meal if you're looking to gain weight on the higher end, if you're looking to maintain on the lower end, and also between 15 to 25 grams of fats in the meal. Also, drink lots of water. Now, if you're not drinking water, you'll be dehydrated. The body and the muscles are made up of 70% of water. So sometimes if you're dehydrated, you'll notice you get headaches, you get cramps, you go to the gym, you don't have proper fuel. So by hydrating your body, you'll be able to make sure that you have at least 3 liters per day to prevent dehydration and to prevent fatigue during your workouts. Challenge number 7 in terms of gaining strength and gaining weight as the ectomorph is not increasing your weight. Okay, this is a big problem. Now, to build strength, you need to gradually increase the weights you're lifting. Okay, using progressive overload technique is very important, which means if I'm going to be doing a set of exercise of bench press, in my first one I get 10 reps with a certain amount of weight. I'll add a little bit of weight and then I'll get 8 reps. I'll add a little bit more weight and I get 6 reps. I'll add a little bit more weight and I get stuck at 5. Okay, that's something that you got to be doing on a regular basis, because some people train month after month, year after year, and their bodies do not change because their muscles are not getting the proper stimulus they need to actually grow from some kind of progressive overload or changing your program with some kind of periodization that happens throughout the months. Statistics show that progressive overload techniques can improve muscle gain in men over 40 between 10 to 15%. So easy key takeaways is going to be track your progress. Now, what I mean by that is, yes, you may have to write down some of the weights you're lifting. You may have to write down what max volume you lifted. So if you're doing squats, write down what your max number was today. If you're doing squats a week from now, 2 weeks from now, write down the number so you can track it. That way you're not guessing. Number 2 is structure the program with periodization. Something that changes every month. Something that as you work out, it gets harder and harder. Okay, month after month. And then also try using creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate increases muscular strength. It increases endurance by replenishing the ATP phosphagen in your body. And it's also a primary source during short bursts of exercise. You'll notice some water retention. Men and women can use this, and it'll help you lift heavier weights throughout your process. I've used it for many years. I typically go for about 3 months on, take about a month and a half off, and then I go back on. Challenge number 8 is you're not using enough compound exercises. This happens so many times in the gym. Stop doing isolation movements. Stop doing cable crossovers and, tricep kickbacks or movements like, cable movements that are going to be isolated. You want to use compound movements, barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, free weights, power racks. You want to be able to use exercises that are going to help you lift more weight and improve a lot more muscle groups at the same time. Statistics show that compound exercises stimulate 15% more muscle activation than isolation exercises alone. So what I would say for you as a key takeaway is try to often, when you're doing a body part, use the big groups first. If I'm doing legs, I'll stick with my staples, a barbell back squat, a barbell lunge, or a front squat. Then I'll go into my other movements. Or if I'm doing a chest day, I'll start with an incline bench press or a flat bench press or even dumbbell presses, and then I'll move into the smaller muscle groups. And also, you want to make sure that you program around the big lifts. You don't want to be doing exercises that are going to pre-exhaust the movement. So you don't want to be sprinting and doing fast sprints before you're doing a leg day. You don't want to be doing lunges, which will pre-exhaust your legs before you go for a heavy lift, okay? Make sure you structure your workout with your compound lifts first, and if possible, throw in a duplicate workout or a double combo that has a lower body and upper body exercise combined into one. Lastly, we want to talk about mindset, and we want to talk about the mindset after 40 for someone who's trying to gain weight. It's difficult because the main challenge that many men face is challenge number 9, which is comparing yourself to other people. Okay. I've done this many years, or comparing yourself to your younger years. Okay. You typically will see guys say, oh, when I was in high school, when I was in college. You got to stop talking like that. The vocabulary you're using is affecting your gains in the gym today. Research even shows that men over 40 who set realistic goals on paper and track their stats get 20% more greater motivation and consistency throughout their workout routines. So 2 easy takeaways are going to be: 1, set realistic and age-appropriate goals. Okay. When I was younger, I always looked up to people that could squat 2 plates. And I told myself when I was 18, my goal is squat 2 plates. Then when I became an older man in my 30s and early 40s, 2 plates was easy. And I went from 2 plates to 2.25 and 3. Now at 46, I know if I really want to train and go 2 plates and a quarter or above 225, 285, 300 pounds of a squat, I can. But is it realistic? Do I really want to put my muscles and bones under that much strain for what? I'm not competing anymore. I'm not doing photo shoots for magazines and getting paid for it. I want to train smart and not injure my body. So train realistically and train appropriately for the goals you want. And then celebrate small wins. You know, a lot of guys will focus on thinking about the younger years where they used to be versus saying, you know what? I'm really proud of myself right now. I've got a business or I'm running certain position at my work where I have employees that I oversee. I got a family. I've got kids. I'm working out. I'm exercising. I'm healthy. I'm fit. I practice mindfulness. There's so many things that you can celebrate to kind of bring you back to reality so you're constantly not comparing yourself to others. Because again, gaining muscle is difficult. And in today's society, when you're looking on social media, everyone under the sun is either on some kind of TRT, performance enhancing drugs. You're looking at athletes today and you may look at them and say, hey, I'm 45, 50. I don't like the way I look. If I'm not on some kind of drugs, I'm not going to gain weight. And then lastly, challenge number 10 to wrap this off is balancing fitness with busy lifestyle. This to me is one of the hardest things because a lot of men over 40, women over 40 that are trying to gain strength and improve their muscularity are having a difficult time because they need to aim for quality versus quantity. Studies show that 45 to 55 minutes of detailed, organized workouts can provide 80 to 90% of fitness gains even when you're older than 40. So like for myself, I used to train for an hour and a half when I was younger, and I would spend so much time into lifting and extra sets. Now my workouts may be 45 to 55 minutes, but I'm still training for quality versus quantity. And I'm making sure I got a good balance in my lifestyle. I want to be a role model for my kids, to make sure I have a healthy lifestyle, and to keep myself accountable to myself. So 2 easy takeaways for someone that is struggling with balancing fitness and family is to schedule short, effective sessions. Okay, plan 30 to 45 minute workouts. Even if you cannot do 5 sets of a big movement, some guys want to do 5x5 strength training lifts or, the German volume training principles. If you don't got time for that, spend 45 minutes, lower down the amount of sets. So again, if you're doing, let's say, chest and back one day, instead of doing 4 or 5 sets for both body parts, go to 3 sets. Make sure you get quality reps in. Make sure you're using time out attention principles, you're using proper form, you're holding those negatives, and you can still get a great workout in a shorter amount of time. And then lastly, takeaway tip is prioritize your health like it's an appointment. The biggest challenge that so many people face in their 40s and beyond is just saying, I don't have the time. I just spoke about so many different variables that are going to get in the way that are actual variables. Whether it's genetics, whether it's proper program design, whether it's nutrition, whether it's mindset. Now we're talking about time management. So if you can just tell yourself that these workouts are like a doctor's appointment. I got to get the workouts done. I got to commit to them. The biggest challenge after 40 is just carving out time in your day and blocking it off so you can actually get it done. So if you can look at your calendar, organize the week, and put your workouts in actuality in a time frame that'll be blocked and protected, you'll be able to train and get the best results you got. Those are my tips for strength training after 40 in terms of building muscle for the ectomorph and working around plateaus. And if you can remember my story in the beginning, it's not so much important as what you're currently doing or how much you're lifting or how much you're eating. You want to stop for a second and use these principles to sit back and look at trends that have happened in the past. You're not gaining weight. Okay, perfect. Before you freak out, look at your calendar. Have you been training 3 to 4 times a week? No. Look at your food log. Are you tracking your food? Maybe not. Are you getting enough protein? Maybe not. Are you doing the right workouts? Maybe not. So if you have something you can track, you can go back and pinpoint where the mistake was and fix that mistake. And the most important part about hiring a coach and why I currently hire a coach with my training and with my business and why I've always hired coaches is to help me break through my sticking points and my plateaus. Because at the end of the day, you can't see where you're making the mistakes, but an outside set of eyes can assist you in making sure that you don't make the same mistakes over and over again and taking that gap and bringing it down to a smaller time period to get results. My name is Coach D. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, as always, please share it with any friends and family. I want to make sure that you can help people that are in this category of trying to gain weight, that are struggling. And if you picked up 1 or 2 points from this video that you enjoyed, let me know what you enjoyed. Leave a section in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. And remember, when it comes to health and fitness, your attitude is everything.